Alright, so welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this wonderful and exciting tutorial, still on the Streamlit project, we'll be picking another tutorial, picking another app we want to build. So this is going to be a simple natural language processing app, right? Which is still going to fall under, let's say, data apps or NLP app. So let's see what we're building in this wonderful tutorial. So this is going to be what we're building, right? It's a very simple app in which, in case you placed in a test here, so let's say I love coding, right? Something like this. And then let's say watching movies. If I put something like this and I click on analyze, it's going to analyze this particular test and it's going to give us the sentiment analysis of it, right? So it's going to give us two options. It's going to give us the polarity and then the subjectivity. It's going to give us a very simple plot, right, of the polarity based on the score, which is the same thing here, and then the subjectivity, right? Very simple. And then that's not the only thing it's going to do. It's also going to identify the words within our test that made this particular test positive with the emoji. So we see that the word here, love, is what made it has this particular polarity, right? You can also see the negatives. There are no negative words, and you can see all the neutral words within them. Very simple, very nice. So if I put in another word, like let's say I love watching movies, and then yeah, something like this. Let's change it. So I love coding, and then let's put a different stuff there. So and like writing, something like that, right? Something like that. So if I click on analyze, it's going to, because we have two words, love and then write, we are going to have all of the polarity, subjectivity for the sentiment analysis. We're also going to see the positive words. So we have love, which is 0.6 for the VADA score, right? Balance aware score. We also have like, right? Very simple. So we'll be trying to use Python, Textblob, and then VADA sentiment analysis to help us build this wonderful app. So let's see how to build this app from scratch. So to recap, we are still on the Streamlit project. This is day 3. So we'll be trying to see how to build this wonderful app. So the basic workflow is that you're going to have an input session and we're going to have a particular function. So this case is not going to be a function, it's going to be a package, right, that we are using behind the scene. Then it's going to process the input, then return our result, which is going to be a sentiment. So let's see how to build it. So in case you have any question or contribution, you can also put inside the comment section below and check our resources for more, right? So let's go back again and let's start. So I'll go back again to my app, Streamlit project. Perfect. And then this is going to be day 3. We have built more apps, but we're building the next one. So let's build this one. So we are using Web Genesis, as you already know. So it's going to be Python 3, Web Genesis. Then this is going to be number 3, day 3. Don't worry about the order. It's going to work. It's still going to work. So sentiment analysis app, right? Something like that. So I go back again and I'm going to my sentiment analysis app, which is number 3, level 3. Then we will start writing some code. So it has already generated a file for us. So let's open it to Sublime and you start writing some code. Perfect. So there's nothing else you can see, right? This is a simple stuff from the boilerplate by Web Genesis. So let's go back again. Perfect. So let me stop the old app and then we start writing some code. So I come back to the app itself, right? So this is, let me make it bigger. You can see it well. And then we're going to still create our input session. So we are going to have an input session to get input from the user, and then some functions behind the scene, and an output session to display the result. So I come down to the app itself, then I'm going to create my input session. So this is going to be my input session. We can use a form as we have been used. Let's create our form. So let's call it with st form. I'm going to call it the key for the form. Let's call it as NLP form, right? Perfect. Then I'm going to put in my raw test. Wait, this time we're using Streamlit test input or test area. So st.test area. I'm going to pass in enter test here, right? Test here. Perfect. Then we need to create a button. So submit button. So submit button, which is going to be my st.form submit button. Let's give it a label of the name analyze. That is all, right? So we also need to create a layout. So let's create my layout for the result. So it's going to be my column 1 and column 2. I'm going to specify the layout. So st.form. This is a layout, so just go with columns, right? Column 2 for just 2 layouts. We are unpacking it into these 2 variables. Very simple. Now let's create our first layout. So with column 1, and then let's go to pass, and it's going to be with column 2 pass. So let's start this app to see the result. So let me come back here, and I'm going to start the app. Go back to my terminal. The app is here. To run it, just go with Streamlit run app.py. But because we are going to be using a Textblob to help us with the sentiment analysis, and then Vader, we just go with pip install. In case you don't have these ones on your system, pip install. Of course, you are using Streamlit, so you have to install Streamlit, and then you also need to install Textblob, and then also you need to install Vader sentiment, right? So these are the two main packages we are using, and we may also use pandas and then Altair, which comes already with Streamlit to help us with our stuff. So these are the packages we'll be using in this wonderful session. Okay, so let's start the app. So Streamlit run app.py. Going to run the app, and whilst it's running, I'm going to position it to make it easy for us. So this is the default port I'm going to use. This is a port is running, the default port. So I'm going to open it with Chrome, right? I'm using both two browsers, but let's close the one with Brave browser and let's use Chrome. Very simple. Okay, so let's always rerun the app. Perfect. So we have our session, right, in which you can paste in our test, and then there is the different columns. So let's come back again, and then let's work on it. So if the person clicks on the button, right? So let's say if the submit button is clicked on, I want you to now give us these columns, right? So if the button is clicked on, give us these two columns, and this is going to be our result. So it's going to be my st dot, let's use info. I'll call this one as my result, right, for the sentiment, and then this one is going to be st.info for, let's call this one as, let's change from info to, you can make it info anyway. Let's call this one as the word sentiment, right? Word sentiment. This is going to be the entire result, and it's going to be word sentiment or tokens and sentiment. Let's make it token. So let's save it and see. If I come down here, and then let's type in the test, hello, analyze, then it's going to generate the two different columns, right? Very simple. So let's move on from here and add some functions. So you have gotten the main part of the app. That is, for the input session, we need to have a particular package to work on a function, to work on the data that you are receiving from the user. So I'll go back again to the app itself, and let's work on it. So we are using Textblob to help us with that. So I'll just go back to the top of my app. Then I'm going to import Textblob, right? So that's what you're using. So we're just going to go with from Textblob, import Textblob, right? That is the first thing. And then you also need to work with the Vala. So these are the two main ones. So let's work with the Textblob first. I'll come down here. So if the person click on a button, I want you to analyze the test and give us the result, right? So it's going to be this option. So I'm going to call it as my result, or let's call it a sentiment. Then this sentiment is going to take in the Textblob object or class. I'm going to pass in the raw test, then dot sentiment. This is coming from Textblob, as you already know. Then let's return the result. So write sentiment. So if I save it and I come down here, so let's type in a word. So let's call this one, I'll say I love Streamlit, right? Everybody likes Streamlit. Click on analyze, and then you have gotten our polarity and our subjectivity, right, out of the box, right? Perfect. So we are done with one part of the app. We also need to be able to have a session to plot this one in a diagram. So how do we do that? So we'll be trying to see how to do that here. So I'll go to the top of my app, right? Or let's work on the emoji first. So this is going to be emoji, right? So to work on the emoji, we are going to that if the sentiment dot polarity, we are just using the polarity. The polarity tells us whether it is positive sentiment or negative sentiment, right? So if polarity is equal to, right, is greater or equal to 1, 0, that means that it is positive, right? So I want to st.markdown. I want to specify that this is a sentiment, which in our case, this particular sentiment is a positive sentiment, so positive. Then let's put the emoji, the smiley, right? Perfect. So if it is positive, give me this one. Else, if sentiment or polarity is less or equal to 0, right, that means that it's negative. Let's not make it less or equal to, let's make it greater than 0 and then less than 0, so that we can get neutral, right? Then we are going to repeat the same thing that we had here. These are very basic stuff. This time the sentiment is going to be negative, and then the emoji is going to be angry, like angry face. Perfect. Then else, that is if it's neutral, right? If it is 0, I want you to bring neutral. Sentiment is neutral. Neutral, I don't know whether the name is going to be neutral face. I have no idea. I think it's going to be neutral. Yeah. So let's save it and see. I'll come down here and I'll analyze it again, the same test we had. So we have positive, and now we can see that we have our emoji there, positive, right? If I change it from here to, let's say I dislike onions, right, and garlic. Most people like onions, some people don't like garlic. That is if you're a vampire. Okay, so they're just giving us neutral. This is neutral because of the word dislike, and this one give us neutral, so we need to get the emoji for neutral. So let's check for that. So I'll come down to Wikipedia, or Emojipedia, not Wikipedia. Then I'm going to get the neutral listing here. So I'm just going to copy this one, neutral face. So there are two ways, right? Streamlit is very powerful, so I can just copy this emoji and then I'll come out to the app and I'll paste it here, right? Either you use the emoji name here or use the icon. Any of them is going to work. So I go back and I check it out. I check the app that we built already. If I analyze, it's going to analyze and give us our result. So let's analyze it again. We have it as neutral, right? Very simple. Okay, so we are done with the sentiment analysis. Now we need to get a plot for this particular sentiment so that it looks nicer. So how do we add a plot? So we're using Altair to help us with the plot. So I'm just going to go to the top of my app and I'm going to create some basic functions. So these are going to be some functions. So let's create a simple function that is going to convert the sentiment analysis into a, we can convert it, let's say we convert it to a data frame, right? So let's call it as sentiment to data frame. So we can come down here and call it as, let's say, sentiment to data frame. So sentiment to data frame, df, right? I'm going to pass in the sentiment term or sentiment result. Let's call that sentiment result, right? The one coming from Textblob. Perfect. And then what you're going to do is that you'll be converting it to data frame. So sentiment df is going to be pd.dataframe. So we are using pandas. So I have to import pandas. So import pandas as pd. Then we'll be using pandas data frame to help us with that. This is going to be my data frame. I'll pass in the sentiment. So the sentiment that comes, sentiment result dot, we can just go, because this one is coming as a dictionary, right? As you can see, if I go with analyze, I hope it doesn't break. This one came as a dictionary, so you can actually get all the items from it, right? So we can just go with this option dot items, right? Perfect. So this alone can give us the result. Now I have to get the columns, specify the columns. I want to call it as my metric. So this is the metric, polarity, and then subjectivity is a metric, then the value. Perfect. Right, then let's return this one. So return the sentiment data frame. This is a simple function we have created. So let's apply this particular function in our test. So I'll come down here. This is the emoji. I want to apply the data frame to see whether it is working. So data frame. So in this case, it's going to be very simple. It's going to be my df, right? Or let's call this here result df, then sentiment to data frame. We can actually call it analyze to data frame or convert to data frame, right? Anyhow you want it to be. But this sentiment to data frame, let's call it convert to data frame, because calling it sentiment to data frame sounds weird. Convert to data frame, right? So we are converting the sentiment to data frame. So I'll pass in the sentiment that we got from above. Perfect. Now let's bring it out. So data frame data frame, passing my result df. Let's check it out. So I'll click on analyze. Then you see that we have our result here as a dictionary, and then still a sentiment object has no attribute item. So the reason is because of how it comes, right? So we need to come down here and then make it in a better form. So let's do it this option. So let's do it this way. So I'm just going to call it as my sentiment dictionary, right? Something like that. And I'll just go with my sentiment result dot polarity, right? This is going to be for the polarity. We can actually convert this one to a dictionary straight away, right? So that we get the result, because this most of the time is coming as this option. So let's try that one instead of this. Let's make it like this. Hopefully it works. So we are using Python dictionary option, converting the entire stuff into dictionary. Let's hope it works, because I'm sure the result is returned as a dictionary. It's still not working, so let's fix it. Let's make it simple for everybody. So let's make it like this. I'll go back again to my sentiment dictionary, right? Then I'm going to create a dictionary. So the first one is going to be the polarity. So polarity, which is going to be the first option. So sentiment result dot polarity. Let's make it this option. It's sounding weird. Sentiment dot polarity. Yeah. So in the future generation, you know what it is. Then this is going to be subjectivity. Subjectivity. Then this is going to be my sentiment dot subjectivity. Right, perfect. And now we are going to return this one back. Sentiment dictionary. Yep. Now if I go back and I check it out again, analyze, we are going to see our result. Voila. So everything is working perfectly, right? So what we did is that we just took the polarity, put inside a particular polarity key, and subjectivity to subjectivity key. Then we created a data frame from it and we are returning it. Perfect. Now we can actually plot it. So since we have a data frame, we can plot it with Altair. So let's go with Altair. So import Altair as ALT. Then we're using Altair to help us with our plot. Right? So I'll come down to here and you want to plot it out. So how do we plot with Altair? So I'll come down here. This is going to be the plot for Altair. So let's go to visualization. So to plot it, I'm going to call it as C, right? Then Altair.chart, we are using bar chart. Then I'm going to return the result that you have gotten from data frame. Perfect. Then .mark bar, then .encode. So this is how to create a plot in Altair. Then inside the encoding, I'm going to specify what my S is going to be. So the S is going to be the metric, which in our chart or in our data frame, the metric was this one. So this is going to be our S, right? And this is going to be our Y. So our metric, then my Y. So Y is going to be value. So we have to put a question mark here. Then we also need to add a color to it. So let's add a color. But without a color, if I go back for us to plot, just go back here, save it. Then to plot it, just go with st.altair. So Altair chart is coming from Streamlit. So Streamlit has to cover it, and I'll pass in my C. Then let's use container, the whole container width. Let's set it as true, so that it picks up the entire length of the app. So if I come back and let's change it on from I dislike to I like. So analyze, still 0 because it's 0, and so you may not even see the plot, right? Because it's 0 0. But let's make it I love, because like is, so I love onions, right? So that the polarity and the subjectivity for the sentiment analysis has changed. So if I come down here, you can say we have our plot here, right? Polarity and then our subjectivity. Very nice. But we also want to change the color. So how do you change the color? So to change the color, just come down here, and you're going to be adding a simple color to it, right? So going to be color. Then this is going to be the color that you want to use. So I want to use a metric as my color. So now automatically it's going to pick the metric column, this one, as my color. So if there are different metrics, there is going to automatically assign the right colors to it, right? And now we have two different colors. We have the metric here, right? Very cool and very nice. So you have seen how to build this wonderful app from scratch. This is the first part of the app. Now let's move on to the word tokens, or the token sentiment, right? So this is going to be using VADA sentiment analysis. So we have to import it from above. So from VADA. So VADA sentiment analysis uses keywords, right? A lexicon, a dictionary, right, of words which have been grouped as positive, negative. So if it finds those words within your text, then it's going to use it to calculate the sentiment, right? So there's I have a whole course, you can check the link below, on awesome natural language processing that goes into details on how to build your own natural language processing project. Okay, so let's see how to work with it. So from VADA sentiment analysis, so sentiment dot VADA sentiment. You can also use NLTK, right? Because VADA sentiment analysis is also found within NLTK. Then I'm going to import VADA, or I'm going to import sentiment intensity analyzer. It's a very long term, but it makes sense. Perfect. So that is it. So let's create a function to help us with this. So I'm going to create another function called let's call it analyze token. So analyze token sentiment. It's a function that is going to analyze the sentiment of a token, right? So I'll pass in my document. Then this is going to return a dictionary. So let's call this one as sentiment. Let's create a simple variable. So we can call this one as analyzer, or we can call it as let's call it an analyzer, right? Then this is going to be my sentiment intensity analyzer. Initialize that particular one. Then we're going to create three different lists: positive, negative, and then neutral. So this is going to be positive list, positive array. I'm going to create a negative list, right? That's going to be the negative array. Then I'm going to create a neutral list, right? So we have all these particular ones there. Perfect. Now we are going to look through the words that the person supplies. So it's going to be 4. The reason is that, let me show you what I mean. If I go back to my terminal, and let's go back here, my Python. This is how Vala works, right? So this is how VADA. I don't know how I'm saying Vala. The full name is Vala away. So it's going to be from VADA sentiment analysis. So that's what it is. So sentiment dot VADA sentiment. I want to import sentiment analyzer. Let's make it bigger so everybody can see. Right, so the sentiment test. Then here I'm going to call it as my SAA. Let's call this, to make it simple, sentiment analyzer. Initialize it. So if I have a test like this, so I love Streamlit. Apologies for the noise you hear behind. And I want to get the sentiment of it. I can just go with SA, right? Dot polarity score. SA dot polarity score. Now pass in my SA, right? Let's pass in the S here. If I go with this option, it starts giving us neutral, right? So it's going to group all the words. So some of them, it's going to give us the percentage of the term that is neutral, percentage that is negative first, neutral, positive, and then compound, right? So this is going to be the final sentiment of this particular word, right? Very nice. So since because of this, we can actually find all the words. It is using the words within them. So I can loop through the words. So for I in my s.split, right? And then if I come back again and I say, let's say print SAE, right, dot polarity score, it's actually going to look through its lexicon of words, positive, negative, neutral, and then this already has assigned to it some valence aware score for their sentiment. So if it finds it, it computes them. So in this case, if I pass in I here and I run it again, if I run it, it's going to tell me the probability for them, right? So I have to first of all split it. So for I in s.split, so let's split it all. That's why it's giving us this option, right? So perfect. So this is going to be for each and every one of them. You can see that it changes, right? The first one is 0, the second one is this, and this one. So if I want to see the actual word, I can just come down here and then I'll specify the particular word there. So this, and in case I want to see the real sentiment, this real sentiment is a compound one. So I come down here and I'll specify here. So let's call it as compound because it's dictionary. It's a compound one. So if I come down and I print it back again, so it's supposed to be this option. This one ends here. The score ends here. Perfect. Perfect. So let's print it. So now we have the I is 0 because it's neutral. I is always neutral. Love is 0.6. That is the score for love. And Streamlit is 0 because it's neutral. So with this same idea, we can actually get the sentiment score of every particular word within our test, right? Which is very simple. So you are going to first of all split them. Then you're going to use this particular approach to get the actual word, right? And then its sentiment score or the balance score. So I'll come down here and I'll do the same thing. So I'll be appending them to the right place, right? So let's work on it. It's going to be very simple, this option. So for I in the particular sentiment test applied, let's split it by space to get the tokens. Then from here, I'm just going to say that, okay, this is going to be the result, right? I want to get the entire result for the analyzer. So analyzer dot polarity scores, right? Now pass in my I. Perfect. Then I'm going to say that if that particular word, the polarity score, is greater or equal to 0.1, right? That means that it's not neutral. This is now going to be appended. Let's append that particular word to the positive, right? So anything that is greater than 0.1 is positive. So positive, let's dot append. Append that particular word there. Then also append the score, right? Dot append that particular score. Perfect. Now I'll do the same thing for the rest. So else if DeFi is trending, ship is trending. Okay, so it's going to be else if, right? The rest, the same thing we did, is less or equal to negative 0.1. That means it's negative. So the negative list dot append that particular term, that particular token, and then the score. So negative list dot append the score. Perfect. Then else if it is 0, I want you to just append that particular one to the negative. We don't want to get the score because all of them are going to be 0. So append the term, not the result, right? Perfect. That is something simple. This is a simple function. We can actually simplify it, but this is easier, right? Now let's get the result back as a dictionary. So result. So let's create a simple dictionary. So we're going to have all the positive words, all the positives, which in this case is going to be my positive list, or the negative, this is going to be my negative list, right? And then all the neutral. So this is going to be neutral. So all the neutral list, right? Perfect. So we have a dictionary, then we're going to return this particular dictionary. So this is a simple function you have created, right? Very simple function. So analyze token from it. So let's test this particular function here. So I'll come down to my token sentiment. So if the person applies a test, we are going to call it as my token sentiment, right? Then it's going to be my analyze token sentiment, and I'll pass in the raw test. So let's get it out. So right, the token sentiment. So this is going to be the sentiment for each and every one of the tokens. So let's go back to the app, analyze this one. I love onions. We have gotten everything working. Perfect. And let's see. So it's giving us an error because of the assignment, because we did it in the wrong way, right? So it's supposed to be this option here. Come down. So else this correct. So the reason it's giving us this is that based on what we're doing, we are just computing the compound, right? This is what you are searching for. This is what gives us this particular value, not the whole dictionary. That is why it's giving us this error inside our app, right? So instead of a dictionary in a flow, so we need to go back and then change it from this to the compound, right, to get the actual value, because it's returning a dictionary. Now hopefully it's going to work. Let's go back again to the app itself. So let's save this one here. We run the app. Let's try it again. So in case you have any question or contribution, you can also let us know. And in case you also want to sponsor the channel, you can also let us know. We also have a Patreon channel and some wonderful courses that you can also check. Perfect. So now it's working. So we have gotten all the positive words, or there are no negatives. That's why it's empty. We have gotten all the neutral words. Very nice, right? So let's add some negatives. So if I come down here and I say, let's say I love onions and garlic. I come down and say I hate, let's say garlics, right? Something like that. If I click on analyze, because there is hate here, it's also going to analyze the entire stuff. We're going to have the first one is working. The second one, you are going to see the positive words and then negative words. You see the word hate here, negative, right? You have gotten all the neutral words. That is for the token sentiment. Very simple. So you have seen how to build this wonderful app from scratch, and the entire app is done. We are done with the app, right? So that is how to build a very simple NLP app to do some simple basic sentiment analysis. So we have gotten the input, we analyze it, we are using Textblob to give us the general sentiment for it, and then we are using VADA, right, sentiment, to give us the sentiment score for each and every one of them. We can actually do a word cloud of this, or a plot of the positive and negative words, as something you can do in the future. So thank you for watching this tutorial. Let's modify some part of the app. So I'll go back to the app itself, and then I'll change it from here to sentiment analysis app, NLP app, right? This was built with Streamlit. So this is part of the Streamlit project. Perfect. Right, so it's going to run it perfectly for us. So everything is working well as expected. So the basic overview of the app is that we are using two different packages. We are using, of course, we are using Streamlit, but we are using Textblob and then VADA sentiment to help us work with our sentiment analysis. We created a function to give us our sentiment in a data frame, another function to get the sentiment as a dictionary, right, with the various sentiment of each and every word in our test supplied. And then we created our input session to receive input from the user using Streamlit form, and then the other options we apply the functions as expected. So thank you for watching this tutorial. See you in the next session, and check out our materials. There is a very nice book on Streamlit, Getting Started with Streamlit by Tyler Richard, as well as some wonderful channels like One Little Coder, Data Professor, Avra's channel, Mizra's channel. There are a lot of channels that are very good with Streamlit. Part-time Larry. So you can also check them out to learn more. So see you another time. Stay blessed. Bye. So one more shout out, right? So there are some powerful resources that you can use in case you want to learn more about Streamlit. So you can check the official Streamlit website, right? The documentation has been ramped up. It is very nice, very simple, very cool. Some very cool stuff there. Very nice, right? Very, very cool. You can also check the blog, like blog.streamlit.io, for some interest. Then caching to get more results, right? To get help in case you need help. And there's also a Discord channel for Streamlit that you can get, check it out, with a lot of cool things there that you can also help or get answers quicker, right? You can also check it out. Then there's Awesome Streamlit, which it's a gallery of most Streamlit apps. Then there is some powerful channels that can help you with Streamlit. So one of them is, of course, there is One Little Coder, who has a lot of materials on Streamlit. You can also check out the almighty Data Professor, said almighty Data Professor, who has a lot of cool stuff with Streamlit. You can see a lot of things that he has built with Streamlit. You can actually learn more from that. And there is Avra's channel, a very nice, interesting, smart guy that is able to create some very cool tricks with Streamlit. There is Mizra, which is not just Streamlit, but she covers a lot of things on Streamlit and then some various things in becoming a data scientist. Then part-time Larry, who is mostly a fintech guy, but he also built some cool Streamlit applications. Then coding is fun, right? He also started with some Streamlit tutorials. Of course, there are a lot, but these are some of the materials and resources you can use to help you with Streamlit, right? And then Streamlit also has their own official Streamlit channel that you can also check out. So thank you for watching. See you in the next session. Stay blessed. Bye.